Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's space agency launches its first mission to dock spacecraft, crucial to the nation's plans for having a space station and other firsts in the future. South Korea launches a probe of all its airlines operations by its carriers after Jeju air crash that claimed 179 lives. Taliban Supreme Leader issues order banning construction of windows in residential buildings that overlook areas used by Afghan women. And President Joe Biden says Jimmy Carter will have a state funeral and a national day of mourning. The former US president died at the age of 100 years on Sunday. Now, in a major milestone, the Indian Space Research Organisation launched its year-end mission PSLV 660, carrying the space docking experiment or SpaDeX from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. This historic mission aims to achieve the rare feat of docking 2 spacecraft in space. Designed as a cost-effective technology demonstrator, SpaDeX will showcase rendezvous, docking and undocking of 2 small spacecraft or satellites in low Earth orbit, paving the way for advanced in-space operations.
जी हाँ, और रेंज ऑपरेशन डायरेक्टर ने इसकी पुष्टि की। दोनों
मुख्य उपग्रह
बी और SpaDeX दोनों को सफलतापूर्वक
Thank you.
A jubilant ambience here on the night of 30th December 2024. ISRO has got its own space docking experiment. Do continue to follow the social media handles of ISRO for the updates on the space handshake. Stay tuned for the address by Secretary DOS Chairman ISRO.
I'm really happy to announce the successful accomplishment of the launch of PSLV C60 for the SpaDeX mission. The rocket has placed the satellites in the right orbit, which is 475 kilometers circular orbit. SpaDeX 2 satellites are moved. You would have seen in the animation that they moved little one behind the other. So over the period of time, for the days, it will pick up further distance, travel to almost a 20-kilometer distance away.
And the ISRO Chief Dr. S. Somnath is also addressing the media persons after the launch of the moment. Let's take you across over there live in Sriharikota.
Not with the, it's not an very rare occasion that we have shifted it. We have done it for many launches. Possibly you wouldn't have noticed also. Sometimes it will be in the matters of seconds, sometimes it is matters of minutes. And the confidence on this is the important issue. Suppose this information coming to us is based on some data that is generated by observation over a period of time. And this data is getting updated. So when you run it every day and then see how it's changing. So based on the latest data, if you find that the time need to be shifted, we'll do it even at the last moment. Last moment we have shifted many times. So it's not an uncommon way of doing it. And this primarily because the number of satellites in orbit are increasing. You know, in this particular orbit, which is 475 kilometers, we have now more satellites than used to be in the past. So that's the result of it. Okay.
My question is about interesting payloads. One is spinach, palace of spinach.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, how long do you think it could take for the space scientists in the space to be able to propagate and have their own space-made spinach?
It's already there. In a space station, they are able to grow food and eat also. It's happening. There is a huge amount of research happening in terms of food growing and as well as creating food for themselves. In fact, I think you would have read already Our Sunita Williams has already, grown some food and ate it also. So it's happening in the space station. Possibly we don't have the knowledge. So at this moment, all the biological experiments are targeted towards developing our own knowledge.
Possible sometime?
Huh?
Rice and wheat are possible?
I can't comment about it because I should comment about something which I know very well. So I said that the biological experiments we are starting in India for the first time. So the knowledge of doing it is there elsewhere, but it's not shared with us that easily. So we need to do our own experiments to understand how it will really happen. It's not just growing food and eating it. That's not the first purpose. You need to understand the mechanics of growing of plants in zero gravity. It doesn't follow the standard method of growth. So we need to first understand how it grows, how they respond to light and gravity, and what type of plants will actually grow in this situation, their yield. Things like, there are many things, nutritional aspects, their fruiting, fruit-bearing patterns may change. It may not follow what you see in ground. So there is a huge amount of work required. And we hope all of this can be done when you reach the International Space Station class. When you build our Bharati Space Station, much more research will be done. And many other nations have done it over the last 25 years. And their knowledge today is on account of that. And we are just starting it. I think it's very important that we start.
So there you go. That's ISRO Chief Dr. S.P. Somnath talking about the various mission objectives, which is, of course, the biggest one. The principal objective is the docking, which is why it's called SpaDeX. But the other experiments and tests that are taking place, he was talking about growing seeds as well to a two-leaf stage. That also will be crucial to having manned missions in space or human space flight and other experiments as well, such as collecting space debris that will be crucial to this mission as well as part of the poem. Now, amid political uncertainty in South Korea, a court warrant has been sought to arrest impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol over charges linked to his brief martial law decree, with his fate now dependent on the Constitutional Court's decision. Last week, the National Assembly also voted to impeach acting President Han Duck-soo, further deepening the political crisis. Meanwhile, massive protests both for and against Yoon have rocked South Korea.
South Korean law enforcement officials have requested a warrant from the Seoul Western District Court to arrest impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol over allegations of rebellion and abuse of power linked to his short-lived martial law decree on 3rd of December this year. Impeached President Yoon's lawyer has challenged the warrant, arguing that the warrant request was invalid. He also claimed that the anti-corruption agency lacks the legal authority to investigate rebellion charges. However, he evaded answering how the legal team would respond if the court approved the warrant for the president's detainment. The warrant request came after Yoon dodged several requests by the Joint Investigation Team and public prosecutors to appear for questioning and also blocked searches of his offices. While Yoon has the presidential privilege of immunity from criminal prosecution, such protections don't extend to allegations of rebellion or treason. Under the country's laws, locations potentially linked to military secrets cannot be seized or searched without the consent of the person in charge, and it's unlikely that Yoon will voluntarily leave his residence if he faces detention. There are also concerns about possible clashes with Yoon's presidential security service if authorities attempt to forcibly detain him. Vast protests both for and against Yoon have rocked South Korea since he sought to impose martial law in early December, plunging the country into its worst political crisis in decades. The country's leadership crisis intensified on Friday after the opposition-controlled legislature voted to also impeach acting President Han Duck-soo when he refused to immediately appoint 3 justices to fill vacancies on the Constitutional Court, which is deliberating whether to uphold Yoon's impeachment. Now the presidential authority has been handed to Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister of South Korea. Yoon's fate now lies with the Constitutional Court. Moreover, as of now, it's not clear whether the Seoul Western District Court will grant the warrant to detain Yoon or whether he can be compelled to appear for questioning. Raghav Kumar Jha, reporting for DD India.
And apart from having a torrid time with its politics, South Korea is also dealing with its worst ever air crash. A memorial service was organized for the victims of the Jeju airplane crash. South Korea's acting president has ordered an emergency safety inspection of the country's entire airline operations after 179 people died in the plane crash on Sunday.
These are the visuals of people paying their respects at the memorial held for the victims of the Jeju airplane crash, the deadliest ever on South Korean soil. The monks also paid their respects on Monday. They would have never imagined that this air travel was the last one for their loved ones. People in Seoul are now scared of flights.
I usually don't feel worried when taking flights, but today I feel a bit anxious. My family has been quite concerned too, so I think that made me feel more uneasy as well.
2 crew members were pulled alive from the crash site at the Muan International Airport on Sunday.
The control tower advised the pilot with the phrase "caution bird activity." At 8:59 a.m., the pilot reported an emergency declaration and go around due to a bird strike. The pilot declared "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday" 3 times and used the terms "bird strike" and "go around."
The crash occurred as the plane attempted to land on its belly after the landing gear failed to deploy. Both crew members were rescued from the tail section, which was the only part of the plane that retained some shape.
It happened right here, not far away. It's traumatic. I don't know how long this feeling will last, but I know it won't go away anytime soon.
Families of Jeju air crash victims are hoping to recover the remains of their loved ones soon.
The bodies are so severely damaged that we are in a situation where we need to recover and piece them together one by one. That's the current reality. Additionally, we have requested more medical personnel and resources to be deployed to this area.
When I saw the video, it was like the plane had lost control. My daughter, who is only in her 40s, is gone. This is unimaginable.
South Korea's acting president has announced a week-long mourning period. Another Jeju airplane reported a landing gear issue just a day later. South Korea has ordered air safety probe and also a special inspection of all Boeing 737-800s operating in the country.
We will conduct a detailed inspection of the B737-800 aircraft and review maintenance systems to determine next steps.
Aviation experts say some sort of landing gear malfunction was likely, with bird strikes and poor weather also under the probe. The crash has reminded South Koreans of a similar incident in 1997 when 228 people were killed in a South Korean airline which crashed in Guam. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. The US announces $2.5 billion in fresh military aid to Ukraine. And there are protests against growing persecution of minorities in Bangladesh. Also, Australia beat India by 184 runs in the Boxing Day test. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Afghan women have been systematically stripped of their economic independence under the Taliban rule. They've been forced out of public administration roles. Their presence in the private sector has been drastically reduced, and many women-owned businesses have been forced to shut down. In the latest order, Taliban has imposed new restrictions banning windows that overlook areas where women carry out domestic chores. They also threatened to close all national and foreign non-governmental groups in Afghanistan employing women. Fuzail Ahmed reports.
The atrocities against women in Afghanistan is increasing with every passing day. First, they were made speechless and then faceless. Taliban has banned windows that overlook areas where women work, be it kitchen, living room, or just a refreshing area. Authorities have been ordered to monitor construction sites and block existing windows. Taliban on Sunday threatened to close all national and foreign non-governmental groups in Afghanistan employing women. Taliban's economy ministry issued a letter warning NGOs against employing women. The letter stated that failure to comply would result in cancellation of organizations' operating license. It comes 2 years after they told NGOs to suspend the employment of Afghan women. Since August 2021, the Taliban have systematically dismantled women and girls' access to education in Afghanistan, enforcing increasingly dire restrictions. Girls were first banned from secondary schools in March 2022, followed by suspension from universities in December of the same year.
I was studying IT when the Taliban came to power and banned access to classes for women. After that, I was very disappointed. I isolated myself at home. Then I went for English classes, which were also banned by the Taliban.
It did not stop there. They even stopped women from attending institutions offering medical education.
We may not see the impact very quickly, but after 3-4 years, we will see the number of maternal mortality rate will go up and up, high and high.
Afghanistan now ranks among the world's countries with the highest rates of gender-based violence. In 2023, data revealed that 28.7% of Afghan girls under 18 were married, including 9.6% under the age of 15. UN Women analysis showed that by 2026, the impact of leaving 1.1 million girls out of school and over 100,000 women out of university is correlated, with an increase in rate of early childbearing by 45% and an increased risk of maternal mortality by at least 50%. It was in July 2023, beauty salons were ordered to shut down, as employment opportunities declined for women after Taliban authorities took power in 2021. Many Afghan women launched small businesses to meet their own needs and support other women. Malala Yousafzai, who is the youngest ever Nobel Peace Prize laureate, says Taliban does not represent the diversity of the country.
Islam does not prohibit a girl from learning. Islam does not prohibit a woman from working. I do hope that more Muslim countries and Muslim leaders come forward to challenge the Taliban.
The Taliban's latest directive underscores its commitment to rolling back women's rights in Afghanistan. With inputs from Fuzail Ahmed, Bureau Report, DT India.
Now, President Joe Biden has announced $2.5 billion in security assistance for Ukraine as the U.S. rushes to aid Kyiv before President-elect Donald Trump takes office. The package includes $1.25 billion in military aid from U.S. stockpiles and $1.22 billion under the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. Unlike stockpile aid, U.S. AI funds are used to procure equipment, often taking months or years to reach the battlefield. The latest assistance for Ukraine follows an announcement at the beginning of the month of a nearly $1 billion tranche of drones, ammunition and equipment. The outgoing Biden administration is working to get as much aid as possible to Ukraine before Trump, who has repeatedly criticized U.S. assistance for Kyiv and claimed he could secure a ceasefire within hours, takes over in January. Former U.S. President and Nobel Peace Laureate Jimmy Carter has passed away at the age of 100 years. Carter had been in hospice care since mid-February 2023 at his home in Plains, Georgia, the same town where he was born and once ran a peanut farm before becoming governor of the Peach State and running for the White House.
My name is Jimmy Carter, and I'm running for president.
Jimmy Carter was the 39th President of the United States of America between 1977 and 1981. He was awarded the 2002 Nobel Peace Prize for work to find peaceful solutions to international conflicts, to advance democracy and human rights, and to promote economic and social development. Carter was born on October 1st, 1924, in Georgia. After 7 years' service as a naval officer, he returned to his hometown. In 1962, he entered state politics, and 8 years later, he was elected the governor of Georgia. Carter announced his candidacy for the president in December 1974 and began a 2-year campaign that gradually gained momentum. On November 2, 1976, he defeated Republican incumbent Gerald Ford in the presidential election and was sworn in as the next president. On September 17, 1978, he signed the Camp David Accords, which led to peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. Carter prompted government efficiency through civil service reforms and proceeded with deregulation of the trucking and airline industries. He sought to improve the environment. His expansion of the national park system included protection of 103 million acres of Alaskan lands. To increase human and social services, Carter created the Department of Education, bolstered the social security system, and appointed record numbers of women, blacks, and Hispanics to government jobs. After presidency, he founded the Carter Center in 1982. It's a non-governmental organization that focuses on conflict resolution and health initiatives. In 2002, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. His presidency was marked by feud lows also. The seizure as hostages of the US embassy staff in Iran dominated the news during the last 14 months of his administration. The consequences of Iran's holding Americans captive, together with continuing inflation at home, contributed to Carter's defeat in 1980. Even then, he continued the difficult negotiations over the hostages. Iran finally released the 52 Americans the same day Carter left office. In November 1980, he was defeated by Republican challenger Ronald Reagan in the presidential election. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
Now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has condoled the passing of former US President Jimmy Carter. In a post on X, the PM said, and I quote, "A statement of great vision, he worked tirelessly for global peace and harmony. His contributions to fostering strong India-US ties leave a lasting legacy. My heartfelt condolences to his family, friends and the people of the US." Now let's tell you how minorities in Bangladesh are facing increasing persecution under the interim government, with calls for India and international intervention from victims and their sympathizers. At the same time, India is also concerned about illegal Bangladeshi immigration. The Delhi police has an ongoing campaign to apprehend illegal Bangladeshi immigrants in the national capital. Tapas Bhattacharya reports.
India's immediate neighbor, Bangladesh, is in a state of turmoil, with rising fundamentalist elements trying to change the nature of the country and its past when it was formed in 1971. Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh face escalating persecution under the interim government. Since August 2024, judicial independence has eroded and systematic violence against minorities has surged. Experts warn of a looming humanitarian crisis, with calls for UN intervention and autonomous zones to protect vulnerable communities.
We demand immediate, decisive steps from global and Indian leadership to protect endangered Hindus, other religious minorities, indigenous people and tribal groups under the hostile and pro-jihadist illegal government in Bangladesh.
Immediate global action is being called for to safeguard religious and indigenous groups from growing violence under a regime accused of being pro-jihadist and anti-democratic.
Bangladesh is captured by jihadis, Bangladesh is captured by Jamaat-e-Islami and Hizb ut-Tahriris. So they are haters of Hindus. They don't like any minorities in Bangladesh. They come in power, they capture the Bangladesh and they are torturing Hindus every single day. Hindus are living in fear.
Meanwhile, illegal Bangladeshi immigration is a matter of growing concern for India. The Delhi police launched a campaign to apprehend illegal Bangladeshi immigrants in India's capital, where 7 individuals were arrested and deported on Sunday. The raids were conducted in slums, labor camps, and unauthorized colonies. During a verification drive in the Kalindi Kunj area, Delhi police identified and nabbed the illegal immigrants. Last week, the police uncovered an illegal immigration racket, arresting 5 Bangladeshi nationals and 6 individuals involved in forging Aadhaar cards, voter IDs, and other documents to facilitate border crossings. With bureau inputs, Tapas Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
And in sports, Australia took 7 Indian wickets in the final session of the 4th Test in Melbourne, the Boxing Day Test, to win by 184 runs and go 2-1 up in the 5-match series. Yashasvi Jaiswal fought a lone battle, scoring 84 runs. India's downfall started when Rishabh Pant was dismissed for 30 runs while playing a pull shot. Nitish Kumar Reddy and Ravindra Jadeja also failed and fell cheaply after Pant's departure. India were all out for 155 runs in their second innings. For Australia, pacers Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc grabbed 3 wickets each, while Nathan Lyon snapped up 2 wickets. The final test starts in Sydney on Friday. That's all we have in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app right away. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.